Hold Me Closer, written by Just Thinking Drabbles, read by Rashi. It was very rare for Hubert to find himself in a precarious predicament. He was always thoughtful, after all, and tried his best to calculate any potential outcome, any unforeseen danger that he could encounter. He was also very good at finding a way to escape when there seemed to be no outs at all. He made sure to study a variety of deadly poisons and spells, and was always sure to have a multitude of daggers on his person. Perhaps he wasn't the strongest when it came to physical attacks, but he made up for it with his speed and stealth. He did everything he could to make it practically impossible to be bested. Or, at least he thought so. Truly, he could hardly remember what led him to this situation, but all he knew was that he was separated from the rest of the army, and was equipped with very little to ward off the wyvern rider who had chased after him. He had almost no magic left to give, and was certain that using a dagger against them would be of very little help. Still, he was not going to give up, not now, when there was so much left he wanted to accomplish. He could feel the remnants of dark magic crackling on his fingertips as he attempted to conjure another spell. It would not be enough, he knew, but that would not stop him from trying. With gritted teeth, he attempted to aim the spell at the wyvern and shoot the rider from the sky, but he wasn't fast enough, and they quickly dodged his attack. He tried to cast another spell again, but it was to no avail. He had run out of magic, and perhaps his luck had vanished alongside it. He attempted to salvage the situation by pulling out one of his daggers in hopes that it could provide some protection, even if only a little, but it too easily succumbed to defeat as it was knocked from his hand with one swift motion of the rider's axe and flung from his reach across the battlefield. It was in moments such as these that Hubert wished he had taken a class on grappling or healing magic, anything that could have given him a chance to gain the upper hand and escape. As the wyvern rider prepared another attack, Hubert tried to flee, but didn't make it far before tripping over a tree root and falling to the ground. His eyes caught the gleam of the rider's raised axe against the sunlight, and he closed his eyes, bracing himself for his inevitable end. Was this really how he would die? Had all his hard work been for nothing? He wasn't ready, not when there was so much he had yet to accomplish. But the deadly blow he was expecting never came. Instead, it was replaced by the sound of horse hooves speeding towards him, and the clashing of metal which rang in his ears, before the sound of flesh ripping and a wyvern's screech filled the air. Unsure of what to expect, Hubert slowly opened his eyes, and no sooner were they open than he saw a flash of red, wavy hair, and two strong arms wrapped around him in a tight embrace. Ferdinand! Ferdinand! Ferdinand had come to save him. Ferdinand was hugging him. "Hubert, I am so glad that you—" He trailed off as he held Hubert tightly. His eyes widened, and his lips hung open as he searched for something to say. He tried desperately to speak, but his words of gratitude fell too heavy on his tongue. The warmth that radiated off of Ferdinand was too inviting and strangely comforting, and he couldn't think clearly. Hubert was too nervous to wrap his arms around him in return, but he was certain not to pull away either. He did his best to keep his focus on him, and him alone, as he attempted to calm his racing heart and shaking body. Maybe it was the circumstance that led him to feel this way, or perhaps the utter exhaustion that was beginning to overcome him, but he never wanted to leave his arms. When Ferdinand pulled away to look Hubert in the eyes, the look of concern on his face deepened. "Oh, Hubert, why are you crying?" Was he? Hubert lifted his fingers to his cheeks, and was surprised to find that he was indeed crying. The realization, somehow, made the tears fall even harder. Why? He didn't understand what was making him feel so emotional. He had been in plenty of near-death situations before, and had never reacted in such a way. He did his best to wipe away the tears with the back of his hands, but it was a fruitless endeavor, as they continued to trail down his pale cheeks regardless. I'm sorry. This is unbecoming." Hubert apologized. He hated to appear so vulnerable in front of him, especially when he wasn't even sure what he and Ferdinand were to each other. Were they merely colleagues? Friends? Could they be something more? His thoughts were racing so quickly that he almost didn't recognize Ferdinand, bringing the pads of his thumbs across his tear-soaked face and brushing aside his fringe to look him in the eyes more directly. "Please, Hubert, do not apologize. I care for you, and I want to be here in whatever way you need me." He brought him into another embrace then, and this time Hubert hugged him in return. He couldn't understand why, but he felt so much safer within Ferdinand's arms. Dare he even say, loved? "Don't let go," he thought to himself, or at least he believed he did, until Ferdinand hugged him tighter and whispered, "Okay." Okay. It was such a simple word, insignificant, really. And yet, in that moment, it was the most precious thing in the world to Hubert.